What is up, friends, YouTube and motorcycle enthusiasts? It's time to remove the rear HVAC. Let's get into it. Alright, my friends, as I mentioned in prior videos of the van build series, I have a 2018 Passenger Express 18-pack extended van. It's a mouthful. There's a lot of nomenclatures, but as you can see, much of it is stripped. I'm just getting the sound deadening in. I'm going to start working on the floor. I'm going to start working on all the awesome stuff, insulation, and getting my shelving and bed and power and all this awesome stuff. But before I can get into that, there was two things that I needed to do that I was deeply not looking forward to. One of them was to remove the bars, which you can see from the tape. They are gone, and they're actually just still hanging out right there. So need to take those to the dump or recycling because they're a lot of steel. The second thing was this guy right here. So for many of you that don't know, and as I mentioned before, this is the rear HVAC unit, and I said HVAC because it is both heat and AC. So there is a heat exchanger in here as well as an additional evaporator in here, and then just like in the front piece, a motor flapper that switched between the two. So what that means is that we are going to have air conditioning lines too, and heating coolant lines from the engine too, flowing back down the rails, down these nice channels all the way to this back unit. So I need to delete this because number one, I'm not going to use it. I did have aspirations to use the heater line for a hot water tank. There's actually a method that some van people are getting into to use the engine's heater, the coolant from the engine to heat up a thermo tank, which then used for hot water, which is super awesome. The problem is that tank that they make in that kit, it's really expensive. And then you also end up having to put your water tank underneath the van. And I'm not about that life, so I'm not going to do that. I think my solution is going to be a lot better. Not to mention, I'm not living that van life, yo. This is literally just a moto camper van for me to go racing and riding. So some of the ultimate niceties that I would do, I'm not going to have to worry about. So the HVAC unit, you got to go, bud. So with that in mind, we basically, I got to admit, I thought this was going to be way worse than what it, after doing a little bit of research, it actually isn't too bad, right? So we need two things. First and foremost, we have to deal with the AC line. So I got this on eBay, and I'll put a link in the description. This is basically a plug kit for Chevy Express, and what it does is it goes on the front part of the AC, and I'll show you guys as we get into it, to the accumulator. It plugs off the two lines, or the 2 points that would feed all the way back to here. So I gotta evacuate the system, plug that off so that it's no longer feeding R134 or coolant back to, for the air conditioner evaporator, back to this. Once that's done, I can disconnect the lines underneath. The second thing is I'm going to need, this is 2 feet of 5/8 inch heater hose. So again, coolant from the engine's flowing back here. I need to bypass that up front and just loop it. Super easy based on what I've seen. So I did a little bit of research, and the video of the gentleman that I found that did this on his Express van, I'll link his video in the description as well, because if I'm missing something, his was pretty thorough and kind of funny. And I also like to tag other YouTube people. Like, if I get my information somewhere other than what I create, then I definitely want to give credit where credit's due. So with all that in mind, I'm going to get into it and kind of point out what we're doing along the way. So first things first, I'm going to do the heater hose. Alrighty, so as mentioned, starting with the HVAC unit itself, we're going to get with the heater core. So here's the rear of the driver's side door. If you just go underneath, you'll see that we have 4 sets of lines here. Obviously, the ones with the 2 rubber are going to be the engine coolant, and then the hard lines running all the way back are going to be AC. So right here is going to be the perfect place to go ahead and just loop the lines and engine coolant will cycle through here. Now, it may be, you know, considered that to maybe delete these lines or whatever the case, but as mentioned with the rails, if you see on all these heat shields and stuff, it really gets dicey if you're trying to remove every component all the way back. So this is the perfect spot, in my opinion, for the HVAC or for the heater lines to be looped. And not to mention, if I ever do want to go with that hot water heater option, I could literally just hook it up right here in this channel, and these lines all the way up to this point would all still be here in place if I ever wanted to go that route in the future. I don't think I will, just because the cost, like I mentioned, but I'm going to go ahead and use my 5/8 hose to disconnect these two. I got the pan here to drain the coolant because there will be some coolant loss, and then yeah, just loop it in, and then I'll zip tie everything up and make it nice and clean. I am using 5/8 inch 2-foot heater hose to make sure it's all good. So let's get after it, and then we'll look at it when I'm done. All right, friends, we are good to go. So the 5/8 hose loop is in place there. I'm not getting too constrictive with it because I want it to be able to kind of move around if need be. I did connect it up here, and then I have the other two factory hoses are just going to hang out there. I do plan to probably, there's a little bit of coolant still in the lines because they're hard lines, so what I'll probably end up doing is once I remove the HVAC portion in the rear, then I will come through with my air compressor and blow these lines out to empty all the coolant out of it. Just because they move around up and down a good bit, it's going to be hard to get the coolant out just by draining it. So I'm letting them chill there for a minute. But yeah, you can see it shouldn't really be an issue. This should just kind of float here, and yeah, looks like it's pretty good to go. I did zip tie it up here to this other electrical line up here just to kind of keep it floating, but other than that, good to go. Let's go look at the AC in the back. All right, friends, probably hear that good synth wave playing. I'm always jamming to synth wave whenever I'm working, chilling out. So this is the rear HVAC unit on the bottom side. So you can see here I have two coolant lines and I have the AC lines. So the AC has been evacuated, so that's taken care of. And now I'm just I got back and I'm busting the lines loose, and then I'm going to bust these lines loose. And then there's the two 10mm bolts that basically just hold the unit in place from the top side. I don't think there's too much else from the inside. So what I'm essentially gonna do is pull this stuff off and then find a home for these. I may end up zip tying these up out of the way too, since I don't think they're gonna be easily removable, but I'll look at it. At the end of the day, if somebody else is doing this and they want to just zip tie them up and leave them in place, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that some of the extra time added of trying to remove these lines, as you can see, they run back up in here under the fuel, above the fuel tank. It just gets crazy. So nothing wrong with leaving them in place and just snugging them up somewhere so they don't rattle around. But all right, I'm going to go ahead and remove these lines, and then we'll go on the inside and see if the unit can be removed easily. All right, we're up on the top side, and as you can see, I kind of got it partially out. This is really easy, guys. There's really nothing to this. We're talking two 10mm bolts. One of them is back here, and one of them's on the top. After that, the unit gets loose, and then the rest is just going to be some electrical connections to the motor, the blower unit. Looks like I have some relays back here too. Which will be interesting because I'll get to keep them. The good thing about having this big blower motor back here also means that I have some pretty good amperage power back here, which is going to be good for me as I set up some of the other options that I'm going to be running. So the more places I have power running from the factory harness, ultimately the better. So in any case, this is it. I'm going to get this thing completely disconnected and removed, and then we'll go from there. All right, guys, the rear HVAC unit is out. So examining here, it looks like This is the hole that I have. I thought it was going to be like more larger and more square. So this should be pretty easy. It looks like I'll just get a plate together and put it down to seal that. I'll do probably 1/8 inch aluminum would do well. I like aluminum because it doesn't rust and I don't have to worry about any of that. So I'll just get it to where I can shape it, and I'll be good for this, and tack it down with silicone, and then probably do some riv nuts. I'll probably riv nut the plate down into place with silicone. So all right, so this opens up this rear portion for where the HVAC unit was. Obviously I have to go ahead and get my sound deadening in place, but this is awesome. So yeah, the last piece of the puzzle is this guy. I can't forget about this, right? So as of right now, my AC unit is evacuated of any Freon, or I guess you not really Freon, R134, and then I'll need to add the Blockoff Kit to the front. So that's the last step, so let's go ahead and get into it. All right guys, here we are in the engine bay. So we're going to take the Blockoff Kit and apply it to the AC system. So as you can see right here in the kit, we have essentially 2 block-off plates, an O-ring, and a bolt for each block-off plate. So essentially what we're going to do is we're blocking off a portion of the AC unit that would run back to the rear evaporator. So with that in mind, I've traced the lines, and I can, if we look down in here, this guy's got to come off to get out to probably get to it easily. But one block off will be here, since this line right here that comes up and around is one of the lines that goes back. So it's got to have to get blocked off there. Another line that comes from the back, or the second line rather, is this guy right here, which is kind of hard to see, but it's going down and joining a T right underneath the power cable there. So I'll probably disconnect that and then add the second block off plate right there where the other piece is. So that looks like that's going to be it. Let's go ahead and get after it. All right guys, the kit is on, and that is the 2 aluminum block off plates, a bolt, and a nut. And you can see right here the loose AC line is sitting there as the block off is there to the right, and then the one down below as this hard line is loose here. So what I'm going to do is, the hard line is a non-issue. He's hanging out, it's pretty stiff because it's a hard line. I simply just bend it a little bit to be to where it's not going to rattle around anything. This guy's at a pretty good spot too, but I think I'm going to zip tie it just so it's not making contact. That's one thing about aluminum lines or anything like that. You don't want it to be pushing against anything to where it can rub, which will ultimately over time rub a hole in something and cause a problem. So I will say, just if you guys don't know, if you've never dealt with AC before, there is oil inside the AC coolant. So what I did was I just took this little Q-tip, went back there to the rear evaporator, and there was a little bit of like coolant around the sides. Got a little bit in there, and that way I could apply it to the O-rings that came in the kit. You don't want to put those O-rings on dry, and I don't necessarily want to use like motor oil or WD-40 or anything like that. You want a little bit of lubricant. The best thing to use is what lubricant would be in the system, which in this case would be Freon with a small amount of oil. So those are pretty much installed. I didn't even really have to remove this guy much, just kind of pull that line, one 10 mil out and then fold it over, and it's fine, it's in a good spot. So that pretty much wraps up the front and wraps up overall the removal of the HVAC unit. So I hope this is informative for you guys. I want to do separate videos like this for certain things that, you know, that everybody may not know how to remove that HVAC unit. So I want to make sure that I'm getting some of this information out there. for, you know, people that may be searching or something like that, that this particular specific stuff is not buried in a, you know, like an update video or something to where people would never find it if they were searching YouTube. So in any case, again, this is not my design. This is a video that I found. I'll put his link in the description. I can't remember the dude's name, but it was super informative. A lot of the same information, but of course I'm just, you know, putting it on my channel just to, you know, spread the good word. So in any case, the Motovan is coming along. I am absolutely freaking stoked that this build is underway very, very well. Parts are getting sold, interior pieces are out, I got insulation going in, sound deadening, I'm buying all kinds of other parts, lots of updates coming, guys. So keep it real out there. Hope you guys get out there, get on a dirt bike. Lord knows I need to get on a dirt bike. It's such a balance between building this van in my free time and then also getting able to ride the trials bike and stuff, because you know, 22 is here. So race season's coming up really, really fast. So I hope you guys get out there, stay on two wheels, ride a dirt bike. This is Accelerate once again, signing off.